There are people who feel that something is wrong with their bodies. Too many different strange symptoms bother them at once. And even if not all of them are too bothersome, it's still not normal that they appear at all. And there are also people who feel it very acutely and go from doctor to doctor without getting the right diagnosis. Of course, it's possible that these are different ailments, but very often it's a problem that is rarely diagnosed, yet unfortunately, many people suffer from it. And today I'm going to tell you what it might be and how you can help yourself. But first, I'll list a few of the most common symptoms that bother people with this condition, and you can see if you experience any of them yourself. Numbness in the fingertips of the hands and feet or tingling in the entire limbs, numbness around the mouth, muscle cramps, especially in the calves, twitching of the eyelids and muscles, a sensation of electricity throughout the body, sleep disturbances, excessive nervousness and irritability, anxiety attacks, heart palpitations, difficulty concentrating, constant fatigue. Sometimes intestinal cramps and abdominal pain, bloating, problems with bowel movements, either diarrhea or constipation, back pain, feeling like there's a lump in the throat. Look how much of this there is, and indeed it can be attributed to various ailments. You could say that someone is overworked, exhausted, and so on. But very often this is a set of symptoms that accompanies latent tetany. What is latent tetany? These are disorders in our body resulting from neuromuscular hyperexcitability. And this in turn is related to the fact that our body either lacks certain minerals, especially electrolytes, or their proportions are disturbed. And the reasons can be various. Among other things, our poor diet, when we don't get enough of these nutrients. But very often, these are various ailments that cause these nutrients simply not to be absorbed in our intestines, or they are excreted in excessive amounts. Or, for example, they are used up too quickly in our body because the body may need them in much larger amounts. Just like, for example, when the body becomes too acidic, when our lifestyle causes us to take in too many acid-forming substances and otherwise make the body too acidic. Today, I'll tell you about that. And then indeed, those alkaline-forming trace minerals are used up much faster than we take them in. And various imbalances in the body can appear. Unfortunately, if latent tetany is not diagnosed in time and nothing is done about it, the consequences can be very serious. Because another name for tetany, the latent one, is spasmophilia. Spasmo translates to cramp. So at the root of it are cramps, muscle cramps. And why are cramps dangerous? Aside from the fact that they cause discomfort, they also cause pain. When you have abdominal cramps, it's obvious that the pain will be bothersome, there will be bloating, but the digestive process will also be disturbed. Automatically, various nutrients won't be absorbed as well. If there is a cramp near the gallbladder, then the process of digestion, bile excretion, and absorption of fat-soluble vitamins is also disturbed. If there is a cramp in the heart muscle, then there may be discomfort from that area. The heart muscle may become oxygen deprived, and there may also be oxygen deprivation in other tissues wherever cramps occur, even in the brain. And if this process lasts for a long time, then the consequences become so serious that many different ailments arise, and a person really doesn't know where to even start. That's why it's so important not to ignore the various symptoms our body sends us. And how can we help ourselves if such symptoms do appear? First of all, analyze what could have caused this condition. And the first thing, of course, is diet. We reduce the amount of foods that acidify our body. Above all, we cut down on sugar. We also limit processed foods. They contain too many phosphates, which will have a very negative effect on the balance of those minerals that are essential for our health. It's absolutely necessary to limit and not consume excessive amounts of coffee or strong tea, and in general, products containing caffeine. Because in latent tetany, the nervous system and muscular system are already overexcited, so there's no need to stimulate them even more. You also need to pay attention that if you eat grains, seeds, or nuts, you absolutely have to soak them to reduce the intake of phytic acid in your body. Unfortunately, phytic acid will also have a very negative effect on the absorption of nutrients from food, such as magnesium and potassium, and it plays a huge role here. You absolutely need to have your vitamin D levels checked and correct any deficiencies you have. At the same time, you should aim for higher amounts, even 80 to 100 units in the blood if latent tetany is present. Because vitamin D affects calcium metabolism, and it is mainly the imbalance between magnesium and calcium that causes this increased excitability and latent tetany. That's why vitamin D, we do tests and correct any deficiencies. If you don't know what dose to take after the test, remember, you need to adjust it according to your results. And I invite you to watch one of the videos here where I provide a table showing exactly how to calculate all of this and what daily dose of vitamin to use. It's also worth getting tested for Lyme disease and other tick-borne diseases that could be the cause of your symptoms. The same also applies to parasitic diseases, especially when it comes to Giardia, because it can destroy our intestinal villi and disrupt the entire absorption process. Because we need to find out why we're lacking these nutrients, why the proportion of trace elements has become imbalanced. Of course, we can supplement, for example, magnesium, because it's the most important component in this condition. Well, not really a disease, because tetany is considered as a disease entity, but more as a set of symptoms. And yet, in this unfavorable takim stanie, magnesium plays a huge role because it's a disorder of the calcium and magnesium ratio, and we should supplement magnesium, but only in the right amounts. But above all, we should check and think about what's happening, why it's lacking. Because after all, we can definitely get it from our diet, but very often it's the case that we don't get it from our diet. And on top of that, the intestines absorb it very poorly. And then it just adds up and a serious problem appears. But still, when we ignore those minor symptoms that aren't too bothersome, then as a result, more and more different symptoms start to appear. And then a person wonders, what's going on? Everything is falling apart. It hurts a little here, it's a bit bothersome there, and so on. And some people even say that absolutely everything hurts them.
Start taking care of your health, Eliza. But what are you talking about? There's nothing wrong with me.
And since I already mentioned magnesium, you need to take the right form of magnesium. The best form in this situation would be, for example, magnesium taurate. Because taurine is generally something our bodies really need. It's a protein that helps regenerate, among other things, the mucosa of our digestive system. If we use magnesium taurate, we provide both this protein and magnesium at the same time. And vegetarians and vegans should especially pay attention to this, because taurine is generally found in animal products. Of course, you can also consume magnesium citrate or magnesium malate because they additionally contain citric and malic acids, which further help to alkalize our body. And what I said at the beginning, that an acidified body actually leads to the development of tetany. When it comes to the amount of magnesium, it's also important to make sure there's not too little of it, that the amount is appropriate. Looking at the research, it shows that we should get between 6 and 10 milligrams of magnesium per kilogram of body weight per day. But of course, not in a single dose, but divided into several doses. That means if someone needs to take 500 mg of magnesium, they should simply divide it into several doses, 3 or 4 times a day, smaller amounts, but to make sure that total amount of magnesium is provided. It's very important for us to learn how to breathe properly. The thing is, improper breathing, especially the kind that happens with excessive stress and too much cortisol production, which bothers many people, makes us start breathing in a way that acidifies our bodies. When we breathe through our mouths, we acidify our bodies. And that's why I pay a lot of attention to breathing in various therapies. And I even had a rather extensive webinar about how breathing affects our health and what the techniques of proper breathing are. Check out that webinar. There are a few techniques there. Choose the one that will be right for you. To learn how to breathe in a way that doesn't acidify our body. so that breathing not only oxygenates our cells, but also supports the body's regeneration and helps to alkalize us. It's very important in life for us to learn how to reduce stress, not so much that our body reacts strongly to different stressors. Here, calming herbs or adaptogens can help. Those are also herbs. You can also watch a video where I talked about adaptogens. It can also be CBD oils, which are extremely effective in this situation. Also remember to supplement with vitamin B12. In general, B vitamins will be highly recommended. And there's one more micronutrient that I recommend supplementing, which is very underrated, and that's boron. Boron is responsible, among other things, for calcium metabolism in our body. Overall, it plays an incredibly important role. And it's especially recommended for people who, for example, have stiff blood vessels or fragile vessels. Generally, some lumps form under the skin, or, sometimes bumps near the joints. That's when boron is simply necessary. 3 to 6 mg daily should be used regularly for a period of at least 3 months. And if you really have more serious problems, then for 3 months twice a year. But as a preventive measure, it's good to do a 1 month or 2 month treatment like this even once a year if you haven't done it before, because you need to supplement with boron. And look, there are quite a lot of different hours, and it's very important because latent tetany can develop. And that's why there are so many things that need to be done. Of course, you have to remember to take walks, to move around, to spend time outdoors, and to go to bed at the right time. Because it's our current lifestyle that leads to so many people suffering from this condition. Well, I said disease again, even though it doesn't really qualify as one. But it's definitely a 21st century ailment, because there are a lot of these so-called lifestyle diseases. And they're called that because on one hand, it's the comfort of life, and on the other hand, it's our way, our attitude toward life. That we spend too much time on our phones, computers, and TVs, we don't move enough, and we live too fast. We're always on the run, always have too many responsibilities. There's no time for rest, for proper relaxation. Unfortunately, all of this leads to such serious problems developing. They don't develop all at once, just like tetany, for example, here. They develop over a long period of time. And that's why we shouldn't expect that even by using so many different substances that I mentioned today and various things, even if we change our lifestyle, it still won't change in a day, in a month. Sometimes it takes half a year, sometimes a year. You need to do more than just correct these deficiencies, because correcting deficiencies is prevention. That's why we say it's the cheapest, fastest, and most effective. Simply keep correcting deficiencies in various minerals. But if the problem has already occurred, if some disturbances have already developed at the cellular level, because it's a disturbance in the proportions of our important electrolytes, calcium and magnesium, at the cellular level. And now to fix all these mechanisms, unfortunately, time is needed. But if you do nothing, the problem will only get worse. So I hope that if you experience such symptoms, you will know how you can help yourself. I wish you good health with all my heart, and please write in the comments what you think about this. Let me know if these tips will be useful for you. Once again, thank you. I wish you lots and lots of health, and see you in the next videos. This was Natalia Samarek.